Deanna's problem, and many said her talent, was an inability to hide her feelings. They were there, up front, shouting to anyone who cared to listen. Whatever she felt was mirrored in her gray eyes, broadcast in the tilt of her head or the expression of her mouth. Some said that's what made her irresistible and dangerous. With a flick of her wrist, she turned the rearview mirror toward her. Yes, she mused, she could see the sparks of temper in her own eyes, and the simmering resentment, the dragging regret. After all, she and Angela had been friends once, or almost friends. But she could also see the pleasure of anticipation. That was a matter of pride. This bout had been a long time coming. Smiling a little, Deanna took out a tube of lipstick and carefully painted her mouth. You didn't go one-on-one with your arch-rival without the most basic of shields. Pleased that her hand was rock steady, she dropped the lipstick back into her purse, climbed out of the car. She stood a moment, breathing in the balmy night, while she asked herself one question. Calm, Deanna? Nope, she thought. What she was revved. If the energy was fueled by nerves, it didn't matter. Slamming the car door behind her, she strode across the lot. She slipped her plastic ID out of her pocket and punched it into the security slot beside the rear door. Seconds later, a little green light blipped, allowing her to depress the handle and pull the heavy door open. She flicked the switch to light the stairway and let the door ease shut behind her. She found it interesting that Angela hadn't arrived before her. She'd have taken a car service, Deanna thought. Now that Angela was settled in New York, she no longer had a regular driver in Chicago. It surprised Deanna that she hadn't seen a limo waiting in the lot. Angela was always on time. It was one of the many things Deanna respected about her. The click of Deanna's heels on the stairs echoed hollowly as she descended a level. As she slipped her card in the next security slot, she wondered briefly who Angela had bribed, threatened, or seduced to gain entry to the studio. Not so many years before, Deanna had rushed down the same route, wide-eyed and enthusiastic, running errands at the snap of Angela's demanding fingers. She'd been ready to preen like an eager puppy for any sign of approval, but like any smart pup, she'd learned. And when betrayal had come, with its keen-edged disillusionment, she might have whimpered, but she'd licked her wounds and had used everything she'd learned until the student became the master. It shouldn't have surprised her to discover how quickly old resentments, long cooled, could come rolling to a boil. And this time, Deanna thought, this time when she faced Angela, it would be on her own turf, under her own rules. The naive kid from Kansas was more than ready to flex the muscles of realized ambition. And perhaps once she did, they would finally clear the air, meet on equal terms. If it wasn't possible to forget what had happened between them in the past, it was always possible to accept and move on. Deanna slipped her card into the slot beside the studio doors. The light blinked green. She pushed inside, into darkness. The studio was empty. That pleased her. Arriving first gave her one more advantage, as a hostess escorting an unwelcome guest into her home. And if home was where you grew from girl to woman, where you learned and squabbled, the studio was home. Smiling a little, Deanna reached out in the dark for the switch that controlled a bank of overhead lights. She thought she heard something, some whisper that barely disturbed the air. And a feeling stabbed through that fine sense of anticipation, a feeling that she was not alone. Angela, she thought, and flicked the switch. But as the overhead lights flashed on, brighter ones, blinding ones, exploded inside her head. As the pain ripped through them, she plunged back into the dark. She crawled back into consciousness, moaning, her head heavy with pain, lolled back against a chair. Groggy, disoriented, she lifted a hand to the worst of the ache. Her fingers came away lightly smeared with blood. She struggled to focus, baffled to find herself sitting in her own chair, on her own set. Had she missed a cue, she wondered, dizzy, staring back at the camera where the red light gleamed. But there was no studio audience beyond the camera, no technicians working busily out of range. Though the lights flooded down with the familiar heat, there was no